All right. I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, aka Some Gadget Guy, the SGG of this terribly named podcast series, but I'm so happy to be back. Last week we had to take an unexpected hiatus just with some life and some issues and some things going on. I had intended to try and do some kind of midweek live stream. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But we're back now with tons of really fun tech news to talk about. Some devices that are in hand, that are in the gadget lab, that I can finally hold up and show on camera. I just have to give fair warning in that this entire podcast is being held together with like bubblegum and rubber bands. Literally 2 minutes into that pre-show, we always do like a little 5 minute pre-show stream. I wasn't in the chat. Like usually I'm like, popping comments like, here's Ron Guido saying happy snowy Monday and things like that. uh I think my network adapter on my motherboard is overheating. So if this stream like suddenly disappears, I got about 2 minutes in, and I heard like all the fans in my computer case kick on. First of all, I got to do a little fall cleaning and get in there and clean out some of the fans in my computer case. But it was hilarious that just like again, I can't just have one easy on ramp into doing a live stream. Literally everything has to be melting down all around. So, if you'd like to know, one of the solutions seems to be when there's a heat source really close to my GPU. Um, if I run the GPU fans a little harder with my custom controller software, I can cool off the network adapter on my motherboard. Let me tell you, being a tech nerd is pretty great. It's pretty great. I love it. I love it so much. So, everybody, I hope you all had a lovely weekend. I hope you had a lovely week this last previous week. I have been crazy busy and trying to get stuff set up, and we're rolling straight into the holidays. And of course, it's got all kinds of, Black Friday deals and emails and press releases are getting sent my way. But also just kind of crazy how accelerated and how aggressive the release cycle has been for all of these different manufacturers. So in house right now, and literally the last half of this podcast, I'm assuming we're going to want to chat OnePlus 15 and the Vivo X300, X300 Pro, and some of the news that's coming out. We've got a pretty heavy gadget block, which is pretty rad. So I just want to do a quick shout out. Some names here in the chat. Seeing Georgie, Jimmy Fire Dragon. Hope it doesn't end up being too bad in the end, Simon. So hopefully nothing too bad is going on with Simon says Hypno, WX Romer, Barry Johnson, Mr. Maug saying howdy. Barry saying hello, Juan and Shatters. Ron Guido. I think I mentioned Ron. Yeah, because Ron had the snowy day. We've got Arvind. Sounds like OnePlus 15. I'm missing some people. Control Alt Clay. Clay's in the chat saying hello, folks. I love to see that. Mr. Ted, Saeed Ted. What's up, Ted? We got Big Jeffro. We've got Darren Morin. We got Azariah. I've already forgotten how to pronounce your name. Let's see. I always got to try to do this on the first try. Magnificent, majestic, magnanimous, miraculous, merciful, motivational Monday morning Juan and esteemed chat. Diction, y'all. That's how we do. We've got Surgeon. We've got a great crew in here. I'm really stoked. We're going to have a fun morning. Goat V8 saying, hey, all. Cedric Owens saying, what's up, peeps? And H2O Taku saying, good morning. Good morning. So I want to jump right into some housekeeping because I've had a lot. I've had a lot going on. A bunch of videos and articles and editorials from our last podcast. Um, I One of the other things that's happening and why I've been so stressed and crazy lately, my personal website, somegadgetguy.com, it's just a landing page for all the other stuff I make. So if I write an editorial on the Patreon, eventually it will go public. It'll go on somegadgetguy.com. If I make a video, it goes up on the YouTubes and then it gets published to somegadgetguy.com. I like having sort of a me space that I manage, I take care of. And if I want to do something unique to that, I can. But right now, it's kind of just the catch-all. If you want to know what I'm up to, if you want to get actual alerts and notifications, that's the best public place to do it. I recently had a massive issue with the website. My hosting got really messed up. I had a PHP issue. Then there was a malware issue because of the PHP issue. I was working with my hosting provider to try and fix those. Then an old plugin never got updated and it nuked almost all the videos on my entire webpage. We're talking 3,000 blog posts, videos just vanished. Videos and images and like rich media just went up. And for a while there, like you would click on the link and nothing was attached. So I had to go and rebuild that in WordPress. And then you would get there and then there'd be no content. And you're like, well, it sort of defeats the purpose of having a website. So I finally got all that fixed. But unfortunately, for a lot of the YouTube stuff and for some of the older posts that I was linking to Twitch videos, and Twitch has messed us up recently too because of the way that they've been putting limits and caps on the videos that we can upload or save from our live streams. I'm basically going back to scratch. So new posts will have videos attached, and every day I try and get like another 20 or 30 older posts just relinked to my videos on YouTube, as if I didn't have enough on my plate. So please pardon if you maybe want to catch an older editorial and then you get there and all of the image links are broken. That's the reason why. So this last week. Oh, Miles, nearly. What about me, bro? I'm the real average consumer here. What's up, Miles? If you're watching a stream like this, I'm sorry to tell you that you're not average. I don't feel average consumers would have any interest in what I would have to say. So, sorry to dispel you of that one, Miles. I guess you're just an exceptional consumer. Just the bare minimum for exceptional consumer is the lowest level of curiosity regarding the markets that they shop in. And you're better than average. All right. On somegadgetguy.com, I got out this video here. I wasn't sure I was going to publish it, but comparing the Pixel 10 Pro against the Vivo X200 Pro, and I shot this video before we had gotten word. We had seen the release for the X300 Pro Global. So I just wanted to take a look back at a phone that technically launched the end of 2024 against Google's latest and greatest. And it's really a brutal fight. And I need to take a minute here just in housekeeping to say I'm not trying to go out of my way to be an instigator or to be a poop poster or to like rile people up. But my entire career has been spent getting a little lit up by a company that's doing something exciting, watching them kind of get a toehold in the market, become a bigger player, and then watching them make terrible business decisions. It started with me, I was my fandom with Apple, switching over to Samsung. We lost LG before they could become the villain, and that kind of left us in place. Like Google became a sweetheart brand because they had adopted all of this HTC talent, and I really had high hopes for what Google was going to do when they shifted over to Tensor and the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 7 Pro. Really interesting things happening in the Pixel 7 Pro. So this just kind of keeps seeming it happens to me where I really start to appreciate the work that a company is doing, the risks that they're taking, the boundaries that they're pushing, and then as they crest this edge of marketing and popularity where they really can put pressure on the media, where Samsung could put pressure on reviewers, where Apple could put pressure on reviewers, where Google has definitely tried astroturfing and putting pressure on reviewers, and that's when my estimation of that company falls off a cliff. And so I'm really trying not to just go into every conversation about the Pixel ready to savage the Pixel, but I'm very disappointed in where Google is going as a corporation and the decisions they're making for this device. And I want to show. I think it's interesting to see when we have actual competition what that looks like as opposed to the illusion of competition that we have here in North America. So that's a major cranky part of this video, comparing the Pixel 10 Pro against the Vivo X200 Pro, and I had almost talked myself out of publishing it. It was really only having some conversations on the Patreon that we had kind of a roundtable in the comments, and I agreed with a lot of the points that people were making, and I said, hey, it's late, but I'll go ahead and publish it, and especially because it's late, I won't be drawing the ire of just awful fanboys that don't want to watch a video. They don't care. They just wanted to complain about someone criticizing their brand. And that's the kind of stuff that really wears me out. And again, when you get into the comments and it's just, no, your bias. You're like, all right. I don't know what you want to have happen here, but I'm really tired of that surface level techie who only watches videos to have YouTubers with millions of subscribers pat them on the back and say, well, you bought a popular phone, so you're special. And that to me isn't informed tech commentary. Moving right along. This is taking way too long. Very shortly after I published that look at the X200 Pro, we're going hands-on with the Vivo X300 Pro. Got a first look video on public there. Then I also got to spend some time with a really fun industrial first responder grade tablet, the Rug On Soul 7. This is also kind of interesting because it's one of the first Windows tablets, rugged Windows tablets with Arrow Lake, Intel Arrow Lake. And they're making some claims about the AI. I'll spoil part of my conclusion. I feel like the AI is the least interesting part of this tablet. I don't think anyone's going to be too shocked by my assessment there, but I love rugged. And so there are a lot of really cool features on this tablet that I wish were more consumer accessible. Then I'm really proud of this one, really excited about it. I got to partner up with Sony. Uh, this is crazy. I don't talk to Sony PR much anymore. I've never been super into gaming on my own personal channels, so the PlayStation team doesn't really know what to do with me. I haven't personally purchased a bunch of Sony cameras, so the Sony Alpha division doesn't know what to do with me. I get some conversation because I still like to cover headphones, so I got to break in some XM6. They're right here on my desk. But after we lost Xperia here in North America, that conversation kind of dried up. But with the audio tech, I did get to spend a little time with their new over-the-counter hearing aids. Now, if you're like me, a man of a certain age, who probably did really stupid things as a teenager and going to concerts and going to warehouse parties and standing right in front of subwoofers, there was probably a little mileage put on your ears. And we're still in kind of an epidemic of hearing loss, where across all age groups and demographics, we're seeing really high rates of hearing loss and getting more data, some really scary data about the correlation between hearing loss and brain degeneration later in life. So I spent a couple weeks with the CRE C20. These are over-the-counter hearing aids. You don't need a prescription, but they still might qualify for your insurance. And it was a pretty remarkable experience. So I just really want to say thanks to Sony. I got to spend some time. We partnered. It was sponsored. However, we want to say um, that I was working with Sony on doing that. But it was great because they approached me to kind of just talk about my own experiences with hearing health. So it wasn't like, hey, here's all our marketing materials and you've got to say that this thing is the best. Um, their legal department did put in like qualifiers. So they're little pop-ups that come up like, well, the FDA says this. And so I had to do disclosures because this is an over-the-counter product, but it is making medical claims about your hearing. So I did have to put in those disclosures. But the rest of it was just me talking about what it's like to try and be an audiophile and a recording engineer and knowing what some of the issues are with my hearing. So I was really excited to put that one together. I'm hoping maybe you'll get to chat more with Sony folks. All right. You know what? I'm gonna cut this short. I've got a bunch of other things here, but I got to shout out my buddy Twin Folk Tech. He sent me a loaner Nothing Phone 3. Again, it was kind of a conversation we were having on Patreon, where I've been really critical about Nothing. Not that I don't think people should like different kinds of phones or that I don't want competition. But I kind of got it in my head that this wasn't really a phone for me, and I didn't make any grand effort to pick one up. Like I didn't buy one to try and review on the channel. And so I reached out, Twin Folk and me had a conversation. He reached out and he sent me his. And so I spent a couple weeks playing with the Nothing Phone 3. And wouldn't you know it, ladies and gentlemen, I used the Nothing Phone 3 and my mind was totally blown. Through pure meritocracy, I completely changed. I didn't. I really didn't. I had it in my head that this probably wouldn't be a phone for me, and trying to use the phone sort of confirmed that this really wasn't a phone for me. But I did finally get to share some thoughts on it, put it through its paces, use it for a couple things. I'm going to mock up, not a full like camera deep dive, but I did shoot enough on it that I'm going to put together just a little camera review to kind of wrap up what I thought of the phone. And there's some really interesting ideas here, but I feel like there's a conversation to be had about tech enthusiasts and how we treat enthusiast brands. And that to me is emblematic of what's going on with the Nothing Phone 3. So, do I have, oh, I think I do have a couple things on the Patreon. So like on the Patreon right now, I'm not going to do a whole bunch of extra screen share. I've got some photo samples from the Vivo X300 Pro, and then I also have an editorial. Okay, so I have an editorial up. I've always loved covering accessories, and one of the accessories that I'm covering right now is a little portable SSD. And I've noticed something, all these big claims about speeds on portable SSDs, but then I plug them into really high power laptops and desktops, and I'm not getting those speeds. And so I explained one of the issues I'm having is there's this kind of generational dead end in USB tech, and I worry that a lot of folks are looking at these products. They're saying, "Oh, well, I've got a super fast portable drive," but their computer doesn't actually support that. And you would think it would, because maybe you have a newer version of USB than what's on this drive, but that's not how these drives work. So unfortunately, you're kind of stuck with a generation behind, but we still haven't gotten the new drives out that would support the faster connection speeds. So we're stuck in this one little era, and as soon as products get updated, we're going to leave it behind, but there's no evolution from the point that we're in. That was a really long-winded explanation. So, everything that we're going to be talking about this week, we do have some news to get through. I cut everything that we were going to talk about last week. I'm gonna tell y'all, it was really bad. I woke up, I'd had a really bad night, got no sleep, that dizzy, sick feeling. I really thought I was just gonna throw up if I had to sit in this chair for too long. And so I really appreciate folks that were reaching out and asking if I was okay. I go through these insomniatic fits, and when I have a ton of stress and stuff happening all at the same time, it's like after a point, I realize I'm not gonna be good. So let's put a pin in it and we can come back. And it's tough because this is such a part of my routine, my ritual, getting everything set up every week. So again, it meant a lot. I put out a few just social media posts like, "Hey, we got to shut it down," and immediately got folks just like, "Hey, hope you feel better." And again, I know social media can be really toxic and can divide a lot of us, but there's still um, so much of that community where it matters a lot. It really meant a lot to me. So yes, everything that we're going to be talking about this week, all of the housekeeping, there's more. I actually published more than what I just talked about here. But all of the housekeeping, all of the news articles, all of the links, everything will be available on this week's blog post on somegadgetguy.com. And of course, there will also be a cleaned up audio version of the podcast on patreon.com/somegadgetguy. No ads, no interruptions. And I even try and clean out some of the gaps and slurping of coffee and stuff like that. I try and trim it down a little bit more. That's exclusive for the patrons, and of course there is a public audio feed too. We always appreciate I always appreciate folks, it's the royal we. I always appreciate folks who will drop a couple stars on the podcast app of their choice or leave a review on some of the larger podcast platforms. Anything like that helps us out. I've even started getting comments on Spotify. I had forgotten that I'd linked this podcast to Spotify. So I apologize if folks have commented there. Um, I'll start checking it out and try and get back to people if they have questions on Spotify. I didn't know that that was still going for me. So it's pretty great. Let me take a drink of coffee and we're going to jump right back in and we're going to knock out some news. We got a pair of Ars Technica links. So you probably can guess where I'm going to start us off this week. It's pretty great. Oh man, Luther builds. Talking about the OnePlus Watch 2. I watched one's video on it and was immediately sold. I bought a barely used one on eBay for $200. Best smartwatch out there. OP watches, man. You know what, the one that really breaks my heart, because I still have it here and I still fire it up from time to time, though. We haven't heard anything on Mobvoi. So the Tick watches, it makes me so sad because I feel like TickWatch crawled so that OnePlus could run. And they've never got enough credit. But at least we have a player in the space doing RTOS right. And OP watches, I still think are right now the best smartwatches in Android land. So I'm glad that my positivity of the watch played out and that you're enjoying the watch. And Luther Bill, oh, Al Zombino, I'm here too. Am I too late? You are right on time, Al Zombino. Um oh, and yeah, you just posted this on the Patreon chat. Sports Fan Reacts. I'm so stoked you mentioned this. Hey everyone, I thought I would let you know that Game Hub is on the Play Store. So, I have started shifting my phone reviews over. When I'm talking about things like gaming, I really can't stand Fortnite, COD, Genshin Impact. Those are not games I play. Those are not games I enjoy. I'm not going to spend time in a game I don't like to talk about performance. So I do like to reach, I do like to cover developers that try to bring good quality games to Android. I've already forgotten the name of the developer that brought Alien Isolation and Grid Legends. It's the same dev to Android. They do incredible work. And I'm telling you, if you play Alien Isolation at a phone and you dial back the quality just a little bit, not a lot, but you can hit 90 frames per second, 100 frames per second. It looks so good. But on top of that, you might have noticed in some of my videos and in some of my reviews, I'm now firing up games like Cuphead. If you want something just a little more platformy and just kind of a fun arcadey, platformy shooter kind of game. But then maybe you want to play Crisis Remastered. Maybe you want to go back to an old school console classic like Prototype. Loved Prototype and Prototype 2. Maybe you want to play some Tomb Raider. Yeah, the 2013 Tomb Raider is way better than most games that get published for mobile. And all of those are installed on the phone. They're not streamed. It's not like Game Pass or xCloud or Nvidia's game streaming or Stadia or anything like that. It's installed on the phone, a 10 to 20 gigabyte game played natively because of GameSir's Game Hub. GameSir, they make the controllers. They have an app out called Game Hub, and you had to sideload it, and then you could log into your Steam account and install your PC games directly from Steam. Well, now you don't need to sideload it anymore. Now you can go to the googleplay.com. That's not the real website. I don't know why I make that joke. You can go to Google Play, install GameStir's Game Hub, then link up your Steam account. It is real easy to start getting legit PC games. This is one of those things. If a developer doesn't want to bring a game to Android, I'm not going to wait for it anymore. See, my favorite just kind of pick up and play games, especially what I play on my Steam Deck, were games like Dead Cells, Baba Is You, um, I mean, Vampire Survivors, I burned tons of time on Vampire Survivors. But anymore, if we don't get an Android port relatively quickly, now I'm not going to buy the game twice. I bought Balatro twice. I like playing it on PC, it's okay. I love playing it on mobile. But if I can get away with buying Balatro once, they don't bring it to Android really quickly, then I'm just going to buy the PC version and install it directly from Steam. So yeah. From Hikari. Hey Juan, this might sound pedantic, but it is pronounced Genshin, J as in jet. Genshin Impact. That's right. Like I jet this and I want to take it. I jet what you're saying. Yeah, Genshin. I have no respect for Genshin Impact. I'm purposely saying Genshin. I do not like the game. I don't want to play it, and I think it is ruthlessly stupid that we use it as a benchmark when it is obviously still way better optimized for iOS. It's not it's not my jam. I'm gonna be pissy about it. So yeah, Jet as in GET, jet. Correct. It's so pissy. I love it. All right, I already said we were going to get into the news, and now it's 9:26. Um, so for our news articles, I'm bringing them up. I'm mentioning them. I want us to follow up on what's going on as news breaks. I'm not going to dig too deep into each of these because I'm so stoked to see investigative journalism. One, it's Ars Technica for the first two, but we even have a link here from Reuters. Every link that I share in this podcast, I'm really hoping you're going to read. Instead of me sitting here and displacing the traffic to that website, I want to bring it up so that you know where to go and you can read what's going on for yourselves, especially when we've got really good work being done by humans and properly linking and citing sources. And you can expand on your knowledge of the situation because these reporters are doing such a good job. So, first up, we've got a story here from Ryan Whitman on Ars Technica. Google settlement with Epic caps Play Store fees, boosts other Android stores. Google has spent the last few years waging a losing battle against Epic Games, which accused Android maker of illegally stifling competition in mobile apps. Losses in court left Google to make sweeping changes to the Play Store, but Google appeared poised to take the case all the way to the Supreme Court. That is unlikely now that Epic and Google have reached a settlement in the case. It still needs to be approved by the judge, but the agreement provides a framework for long term changes to Android app distribution that would apply globally. So, I am. Why is my camera not coming back? There we go. Hey, everybody. I am of the mind that companies like Google are long overdue. Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, especially, I'm of the mind that they are overdue some more significant regulatory market corrections. That we need people to come in and say, this isn't how we should be doing business. The fines that we give these companies are insufficient to change their behavior. It is getting increasingly difficult for competition to come up because we have these massive organizations that can stifle competition. And this was an example of one area where Google could apply pressure and prevent other competitive options from you being able to install the software you want. Sideloading is a stupid and evil moniker to put on the practice of installing software on a computer. Sideloading sounds like you're doing something hackery, right? Yeah, hack the planet. Ooh, I'm sideloading. I'm coming in sideways. So I've been very frustrated with Google's direction in this case. I don't have any particular fondness for Epic. I'm stoked they give me a free game every Thursday. That's neat. But Epic had the war chest of funds to go after Apple and to go after Google over some anti-consumer business practices, and they eked out a couple critical wins in court that could help us set precedent for future situations involving behemoth monolithic organizations and this vertical integration that is really harmful to consumers. Unfortunately, the amount of money, time, and effort that Epic has poured into this means that Epic has a vested interest in getting preferential solutions. So instead of courts and consumer advocates and regulatory agencies coming down on Google to say, this is how we think you should open up the Play Store, this is how we think you should do business, I am very anxious and really concerned about any deal Google and Epic work on as a settlement because I fear it's really just going to play into their best interests now that they've dumped tons of money on lawyers to fight these battles in court. Now they're going to be looking for a recoup on that investment. So there is a great breakdown on the entire process of how we got to this point. Ryan Whitman has linked and cited and sourced and follows up on what this information really looks like right now. And I would highly recommend folks give this article a read instead of just listening to me prattle on about my opinions about really complicated legal issues because I am not a lawyer. And as much as I like to follow these court cases because I feel they have a tremendous impact on our daily lives, the information here is too good for me to just sum it up in a pithy little AI condensed paragraph. This is really complicated stuff, but it's not so complicated that anyone in this chat couldn't figure it out. Like, seriously, all of you are smart enough to read through this and go, oh, that sounds like BS. Right. Sorry, I've got I've got some comments here. Some of it just cracked me up. Miles Neary is asked, I think, a couple times now, what is your primary phone? What do I use now? My SIM card is in the OnePlus 13, but that's probably going to change very shortly. John Gao saying, happy Monday. Sorry I'm late, folks. Oh, no, go back to Goat V8. Sorry, everything is running really slowly in my browser right now. Didn't the term sideloading come from when you would actually inject software from a PC onto the phone? I think so. Someone's gonna have to dig up the etymology of sideloading. From Future, it's here. I give Epic credit for their fights. They lost a lot of monies and sacrificed profits for the fight now. Watch as Epic is impoopified. So I don't have data to say that this will be bad, but it makes me really anxious if Epic and Google are working out a settlement, how that might impact other situations. Like, for example, I look at an organization like F-Droid. I am a huge fan of F-Droid. It is old school, nerd, open source, but you can find so many helpful little applets and alternatives. One of my favorite file managers is Fossify, one of the best photo galleries. I hate how every photo gallery is trying to dump me into Google Photos. That is so ruthlessly annoying. I do not want Google Photos backup. I don't. I don't want it. But now even in like the bespoke photo galleries made by every manufacturer, oh, now we can upload for you to Google Photos. And like I was using your photo gallery so I wouldn't have to do that. I do not want to open a photo gallery and see web photos that I need an internet connection for. I want the photos that are on the device. And so now the photo gallery I use the most is Fossify, which is free. That's the kind of thing that really drives me crazy. And with Google putting pressure on this developer, um, what is this, verification program. So you can be a dev and be allowed to put out an APK that someone can sideload, but you need to be verified by Google is horrifically anti-consumer. And we're all dancing around just, I don't know, but what are the courts going to say? There needs to be a lawsuit, I guess. So a bunch of open source software enthusiasts are going to sue Google. We see how bad this is for hobbyists, enthusiasts, and then people who just want to have more control over their devices. It's so frustrating. And from Hikari, immediately right after that. Back in my day, we called sideloading installing APKs. It's just installing software. You got a program and you put it on your phone and you said, install the program on my phone. But we've done this really stupid Apple play of appifying. Everything's a little app now. And we could be doing this better. I think everyone in this chat probably is already on the same page. We could be doing this a lot better. All right, moving right along, we do have another story here from Ars Technica, written up by my man crush John Brodkin. AT&T falsely promised everyone, quote, a free iPhone ad industry board rules. AT&T has been told to stop running ads that falsely promise all customers a free iPhone. The rebuke came from the advertising industry's official watchdog just a week after AT&T sued the organization over a different advertising dispute. Excuse me, BBB National Programs National Advertising Review Board, the NARB, quote, has recommended that AT&T Services Incorporated modify its advertising to avoid conveying a false message regarding eligibility for an iPhone device offer. And I just think things like this are kind of funny. And I would like you to go through this because right now, here in the United States, we're in this hilarious pissing match between T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T, where everyone's coming out with a commercial about how they have the best network. And T-Mobile really took a shot at Verizon, had Billy Bob Thornton. So first of all, my wife and I used to work in talent agencies and then in commercial casting. And we worked in commercial casting back when it was still kind of unseemly for A-list celebrities to do commercials in the United States. And now we just think it's hilarious. Like, yeah, why would you go with any other actor that could do a great job of being in a commercial and being folksy and authentic and like a real human when you could just pay for Billy Bob Thornton to go out there and say, well, I don't know, seems like Verizon doesn't have the best network. Well, they used to, not anymore. And you're like, okay, cool. I'm glad that you can spend that kind of money now. But Verizon and T-Mobile are trading these shots, and I also think it's so funny how thirsty AT&T is to be taken seriously in any kind of bigger commercial conversation. So they got is Luke Wilson to parody the Billy Bob Thornton commercial, which wasn't about AT&T. T-Mobile took a shot at Verizon, and AT&T is trying to waddle in with a parody of the Billy Bob Thornton commercial. Well, but AT&T's got the best network, says nobody. It's like, hey guys, we can buy a celebrity and do a folksy country commercial too. Hey guys, pay attention to us. We can copy T-Mobile. Oh, we've got a network and you can buy devices, but this is the problem is like there is no pushback against any of their actual business practices, how they whitelist devices, how they make your billing as confusing as possible, the pressure that they're putting on regulators so they can tack on hidden fees. None of that has any impact in courts or in the legal system. But if you advertised that everyone could get an iPhone, well, you can't do that, sir. That's not good. Your commercial wasn't 100% honest. So you can keep doing all the bad stuff that you were doing and maybe pay a fine every couple of years, but can't tell everybody they can have an iPhone because that's not 100% factual true. We've seen this play out in really dangerous ways. Like the one that I love to bring up is when Samsung was tagged for human rights abuse in their manufacturing process. Samsung wasn't actually tagged legally because they were abusing human rights. They were tagged because they put out a commercial saying, we don't abuse humans in our manufacturing, and that was untrue. So that it was untrue because of they got in trouble legally because of the commercial wasn't true, not because they were doing something horrific to people in their manufacturing. That's where we're at. It doesn't like it doesn't matter that AT&T is doing some really terrible things to their own customers. What matters is that the commercial wasn't like 100% completely true. And that's where we're at. So again, I'd love you to read this article because it, man, having a marketing background, having worked in advertising, especially on the talent side, working with the actors who are in commercials and stuff, casting commercials. I loved casting commercials. Commercials are stupid and fast and fun, and the people who worked in commercials were hilarious and just really fun to work with. And now, well, why have some really great commercial actors in there, sitcom actors in there, TV actors in there? You can just get, why not just Angelina Jolie will hawk Mint Mobile or something? I don't know. Makes me sad. I don't like where this is all going. I'm going to shut up now, though, because I figure you can just read the rest of the article. We'll do that. Oh, from Arvin. Still remember back when I had to unlock the bootloader to flash Android Lollipop on my Micromax night. I did this last for my OnePlus 8 and Graphene OS. That's kind of a fun project. I have not flashed anything custom or unique or bespoke in so long. And I'm really curious to see what's going to go on with Graphene and Lineage. And I feel like Google is again trying to get in the way of any kind of outside control you might have on your Android devices, which Goat V8 pops up here too. One, it's for our safety. We're too stupid to be responsible for our own devices. And I've seen so many people make that claim like, well, you can't let people sideload, they'll sideload viruses. And you're like, I really don't think, I'm sure that there is a non-zero number of support calls that phone manufacturers get. If it's at the carrier or if it's directly to Google, Samsung, OnePlus, whatever. I'm sure there's someone out there complaining, I installed this program on my phone, and now I have a virus and this is bad. I'm sure it's non-zero. I cannot believe that it is a statistically significantly large enough chunk to really craft this kind of policy where all of our devices are locked down. And Ozzy Beach Bum saying, "Hey Juan, what's up, Ozzy? How you doing down there?" Um, man, yeah, my browser is going real slow. This is annoying. Okay, moving right along. This is again. I hope I'm desperate. I really hope this is the kind of reporting on tech that you read and share with your family and friends. I am exhausted by the shared helplessness that everyone around me engages in. Well, I mean, I know Facebook does terrible things, but what else am I gonna do? Stop using Facebook, am I right? How's what? But who could gotta be on Facebook? We gotta stop pretending that these are institutions. They're websites that could disappear tomorrow. If Intel could crater over a couple of years, nothing is an institution. And I don't mean the phone brand. I mean, there is no single organization that should be held with the reverence of it being indomitable in any space. It could disappear. We could starve it of attention tomorrow, and it would be a net positive for society. And this is the kind of one of the topics that the folks over at Reuters dug into hardcore. A Reuters special report, Meta is earning a fortune on a deluge of fraudulent ads. This is excellent reporting by Jeff Horwitz. I really hope, excuse me, you will give this article a read through, if only just to contribute to those conversations that you have with your family and friends. Instead of doing like Facebook for organizations or for keeping up with your parents or your friends from high school, to make the effort and reach out and say, here's my email address, or maybe you could text me, or here's a messaging platform we could be on instead, or anything else. We keep bringing it up time and 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 time again. Everything Mark Zuckerberg has done has started out, I just want to do something cool, and then I'm going to pivot and make it the worst possible thing for you I could make to enrich my financial position so I can buy another mega yacht every single time. I am so tired of people acting like it's some big shock that now Threads is kind of crap. The algorithm is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is getting in between you and the communities and the topics that you say you care about to feed you endless rage bait to keep you arguing and fighting and hostile on the site longer, because we've talked about this so many times in the past that Facebook and Meta, they love to experiment on your brain to see what will keep their algorithm hooked into your skull the longest to maximize the time on site. And no big surprise, if you're pissed off and you're afraid, if you're scared and you're angry, you'll stay on that site longer. It's just like old people watching Fox News. If you're outraged, you'll stick with the thing outraging you and share the outrage more than if you were satisfied, if you were sated, if you had a good time. Hey, I got my fill of puppy and kitten videos and now I can go touch grass. That's not good for Facebook. So on top of all that, Reuters has this incredible report. I'm just going to read their like little tag paragraph here at the top. I'm not going to go too deep into the numbers. Excuse me. Meta projected that 10% of its 2024 revenue would come from ads for scams and banned goods, documents seen by Reuters shows. The social media giant internally estimates that its platform shows users 15 billion scam ads a day. Among its responses to suspected rogue marketers, charging them a premium for ads and issuing reports on scammiest scammers. So all of those times that like someone in your circles of family or friends had been hurt by something online, how many times do we get to watch Facebook do this to the people we care about and still go, but how am I going to tell people about my bake sale? Well, I need the Facebooks. And it's infuriating. We've got this like pathetic helplessness. There's just nothing we could do. We just have to let Facebook keep making Mark Zuckerberg richer while my granny gets all of her money taken away from a scammer. We don't want Mark Zuckerberg to not have another yacht. So Grammy, you just got you got to lose your life savings. I'm sorry. It's just, I wish there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. I'm so tired of it. Here's yet another data point. While you're miserable and pissed off on Facebook, they're literally serving you scams. 15 billion scam ads a day. And Facebook says, hey, you know what? You're right. We know they're scams. So we'll charge the scammers more for ads. That's how we'll balance the ledger there. So while you get screwed, we'll make more money on you getting screwed. Don't worry, the scammers are paying an additional fee for screwing you. I just like I've reached like critical outrage, the critical mass on outrage. I need to take a sip of coffee here. We'll look at some of these comments here. I went like full whiny screechy voice in my estimation of someone who was like a weird for no other reason Facebook apologist. So I know I've already lost the plot on this one. I'm just so viciously angry that this is where we're at. This is the downfall of our society. Yeah, I got a bunch. So I have to throw a shout out to Mosh and Roll 507. I very much appreciate that super chat. Looking forward to your OnePlus 15 review. I am too. I'm going to be really stoked to share some of my thoughts on that phone. It is a very unique phone. Um, I want to do. Some other folks were just talking about other phone makers and unlocking bootloaders and things like that. But I do want to get into the comments on this. Um, from Saeed Ted, Mr. Ted. True story, nearly 20 years ago, Facebook experimented with the feed on users in European countries to see how it would affect the emotional mood of their users. That's the internal study that I'm talking about. Facebook published, we make you miserable, you'll stay on Facebook longer. At the same time, they were also sort of fostering a very dicey political event where lots of people were hurt and killed. Mr. Maug, I'm lucky that none of my family members are addicted to social media. And it's like keep bringing these topics up with those family members. One, to prevent any kind of hook into what might, again, they're designed to be as mindlessly scrollable as they possibly can be. So you keep bringing these points up. Say, hey, it's great that we're not doing this. It's great that we've got just like a family photo album. We don't have to like try and find each other on Instagram because Instagram is Facebook and Facebook is terrible. You keep putting that pressure, that negative push away from these platforms. It is so much better for the health of the people around you that you care about. And yeah, Mr. Ted here, Meta is in the dopamine business, much like the way cigarette companies are in the nicotine business. We know it's awful. We know it's horrible, but here we are. Again, I just can't handle that. And especially when I talk to other parents, it's this like willful. Oh, but I can't. But how would I? But what about? But what if? Let it go. Walk away. You miss nothing but the outrage. You say you hate. So stop doing it. Actually, you know what? I want to throw this out here. You know what? How can I make this topic about me? Um, I have not logged into my Facebook account for I don't know. I want to say in any seriousness since the pandemic. I've had to pop in and fix things when I keep my name and some gadget guy locked down. I want some official thing that I can point to that is me and I don't use Facebook, right? But a long time ago, I stitched an auto publish to my website. So when I publish, I don't even know if it still works, but a plugin would send the post over to Facebook, and it was a completely passive one-way send. So I've been looking like Facebook, Threads, Instagram. Unfortunately, just to be any kind of commenter in this space, you have to go where people and views are. And I find it so horrible that enthusiasts refuse to walk away from platforms that actively hurt their livelihood. But is where we are. So I'll post something every now and then. Like I posted a video this morning on Instagram and TikTok and a short on YouTube before we went live for this week's show. I don't get the people who won't leave Twitter. It is the vile, the worst aspects of social media just magnified intensely. And I know people's like, "Well, but I've got my community on Twitter," and that's great. You're enriching Twitter so that they can pay other people to make Twitter worse. But again, since people won't leave, should I start auto publishing videos to Twitter? What are your thoughts? What should we do? If there are folks who refuse to leave Twitter and they're so abused by Twitter that they just can't help but stay on Twitter, do I try to at least just occasionally show up in the algorithm? To me, that is, I'm benefiting from one of the most toxic, hateful people on the planet trying to hurt other people with social media. And should I be complicit in that? My feeling, obviously, through the words that I'm using, should be pretty clear that I don't want to do that. But again, what if my videos could make what if someone watched my stuff and they thought? And I'm really tired that that's what we've got. We could be doing anything else. We could be going back to just having an RSS feed reader of your favorite websites and video channels, and that's how you could just organize all your stuff. You can say, hey, this is stuff I like, and I'll just have a constant feed of things that I like. And then you could stitch that into something more like a Mastodon style kind of distribution platform. But I can't convince anyone to stop using Twitter. It is so bad. It doesn't even run well. I had to go back in. So I had to log back into my Twitter account just to keep my name occupied, right? They took away my check mark that I had earned before Musk took over. They took away my check mark, but I still have to go in occasionally and log back in. Most recently, because they're finally getting rid of like twitter.com, it's just going to be like a dumb redirect to x.com. Because they're getting rid of that, people are getting locked out of their accounts because they're breaking two-factor authentication. So I had to go into Twitter, delete all of my 2FA, and I'm even using as a backup, I'm using a hardware key to back up. But you see, the hardware key is for twitter.com. And now it's going to be x.com. This website doesn't even function. And people are still like, but that's where all my friends are on Twitter. Then leave. Tell your friends, take them and leave. Go somewhere else. So anyway, I don't know. I'm not going to jump in and answer comments and reply, and I don't have kind words for people that are like actively building community and conversation on Twitter. I really don't. But do I auto publish videos there? Do I at least just belch in that general direction? A video was published on YouTube and you can watch it. And then I can stay out of Twitter. I don't have to engage or do anything on Twitter, but maybe someone will catch that video there. I don't know. Again, hit me, let me know. I'd love to have some other thoughts on this because I've just been really in my own head about what to do about Twitter because it's terrible and I hate it now as much as I hate Facebook. It's the worst. Um, Here, let me see. Going back. Oh, from Ramran. I deleted my social media this summer. Nicely done. I'm a fan of Mastodon. If you want a feed and you want to cultivate a feed and you're really into tech, you're not just like, I like holding a phone because it feels good in the hand. Like if you want to get deep into some nerdy stuff, um, I recommend Mastodon. You can make your own. Again, to me it's I want to cultivate the best, not scroll mindlessly through garbage. That's where I have a big problem here is that I actually care. I'm doing this because I care. So, a combination of my RSS feed reader, where I've got maybe a loud, obnoxious alert every time John Brodkin posts something on Ars Technica, because that dude is dreamy. Um, but then all of my favorite YouTube channels, I don't go through YouTube. They go through an RSS feed reader, and I get actual alerts, notifications, and a stream of the content I said I wanted to watch, not the garbage YouTube wants to feed me to mindlessly stream through shorts. That is important to me, so I made it the way I wanted it. And you can do that on something like Mastodon. You can follow a couple different hashtags, just get started, and then follow the people that you see populating good content. And you've got a feed of awesome content. I wake up like every other day, there's a long thread of Cory Doctorow posts. You know what? It's like, hey, I've got my nerdcore social media fix for the day. Cory Doctorow just wrote 20 posts on Mastodon. Let's go. From Mr. Maug, I've used Facebook so much less recently that they started suggesting I add women with revealing profile pictures. It's not working. It is so brutally obvious. How stupid, thirsty obvious. It's just so annoying. From Jay, excuse me, man, I got this little dry cough, and I apologize for people when I'm coughing on the mic here. From JGJ, I barely use Facebook, mostly connected to family on WhatsApp since I am legally obligated as an agent. as an Asian. I totally appreciate being stuck in that messaging platform. And I know that can be really hard to disentangle yourself from. But to me, that doesn't mean we excuse the entire rest of the Facebook portfolio. You can lean into WhatsApp. I have a WhatsApp account. Unfortunately, our school's main parent conversation thread is on WhatsApp. But to me, that was, I'm at least fighting this so it's not a bunch of iPhone owners saying, "Oh, it's a text thread and now there's an Android in the text thread." We cut that one off, and that's WhatsApp was the lesser of two evils in that. But what was funny to me is like while the WhatsApp Facebook, while the WhatsApp parent group is one of those areas where we can kind of have some of these like, hey, what's going on here? The school also uses its own messaging school platform, and that's where the bulk of conversation really happens. So we can take the framework of a social media and make it hyper specific. It's kind of like Nextdoor for schools. And yeah, it gets stupid and toxic like Nextdoor, but it's not completely spread across Facebook. It's in its own little silo. There's an app that we use in softball. It's called Game Changer. So youth sports links into this. I mean, one of the major backers is Dick's Sporting Goods. It's a really great app because every parent goes to a game, and as the game's playing, they put in what the plays are. So I was on a business trip and I missed one of Lexi's softball games. And I pick up Game Changer and I see, oh, she hit a single. That's so cool. It's just like the little play by play. And in Game Changer, every team has their own private chat. So we're not going to Facebook. We're not going to some other messaging platform. It's a softball coaches and parents chat. We do it in Game Changer. Everyone's happy. It works. So there are ways that we can compartmentalize and silo again. And I really feel like the future of the web, if we're going to be healthy individuals, is paring everything back and going to individual, um, purpose built conversation platforms. Elon Musk saying Twitter is going to be the everything app. No, I think that's Web 2 and it's dead. No one wants that. It shouldn't happen. It probably won't work. But if I want to talk softball, I have an app to talk to all the other parents and coaches and kids, and I'm really happy. It's the softball app. Done. I love it. We'll do that instead. From Arvind, I quit Facebook in 2014 and Instagram in 2022. The moment when Instagram started having dark patterns and started challenging my self-esteem, I dropped it. I'm off Reels and I'm off Shorts. Good for you. I love it. I'm still like debating. I was in another conversation with a content creator, and it is so much work and so much effort to try and put together a nice video. And right now, it almost feels like that's totally stacked against you when instead we could just be another one of a dozen different unboxing videos. So I put out an unboxing on the OnePlus 15 this morning, and I don't know. I mean, like, maybe I just need to start doing some cheap disposable. Hey, I just held up my selfie camera and I said, hey, there's this thing and look, it's cool. And don't you think it's cool, guys? What do you think? Drop a comment. Okay, bye. And maybe I've got to do some more of that just so that the YouTube algorithm will be appeased. I hate that we're doing this stupid game of what's going to make YouTube happy so that then I can make the videos I really want to make. They're so frustrating. Um, from Arvind, if we're dropping Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, how do we stay updated on all the happenings around us in real time? Um, I think I've already prattled on about that. There are alternatives. There are plenty of ways that we can keep up with what's going on. In fact, all of the ways that you're keeping up with what's going on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram are just people reposting news from other places off Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I mean, that's already happened. You're actually getting it secondhand if you're really keeping up with news on social media. Um, yeah, a lot of people here kind of weighing in, not using Instagram, not using Twitter. Um, oh, from Rum Run, I actually liked. I got a Mastodon account. I follow you and like 8 others. One is a good news daily post. Oh, he's saying, oh, I actually lied. I liked the typo. Oh, I actually liked. No, that was a great typo. But no, again, you can make it what you want it to be. That's what I loved about Twitter originally. Twitter was has always been a garbage platform, but old school Twitter let me manicure it and keep my feed in real time, not algorithmically sorted, and I liked what I could make out of Twitter. That's why I was so gutted when Elon Musk bought Twitter. He destroyed what made Twitter fun and interesting and useful to me. And so now the only thing that's close to that old school Twitter vibe, in my opinion, is Mastodon. It's not even Blue Sky. So I feel like Blue Sky is already running into issues with moderation and what popular communities and what popular topics need to be reined in so that it's more advertiser friendly, all that garbage. Miss me. Blue Sky is already proving to be just as problematic as any other social media site. Mastodon, man, you can make it exactly what you want it to be. And you will have to encounter some new people. And that's kind of the fun and the joy of getting into an old school style social media platform. Okay, so um I do have some gadget news that we can knock out. This one I just think is kind of funny. Let me take another drink of coffee before I cough on the mic again. Hold on 1 second. Okay. So, gadget block, some fun news just coming out this week. This one I think is kind of interesting because we've been talking about sort of partnerships and how bad I think it is for everybody, for consumers, for enthusiasts, for the market, for everyone, when like massive, huge corporations just make deals on their own. In the past, it was Google paying Apple tens of billions of dollars a year to be the default search. So every time an iPhone owner would say something like, "Oh, but Apple cares about my privacies and they don't sell my user data," and like they absolutely did, to the tune of $20 billion a year. You delightfully smooth brain child. don't don't play that game. That is so adorably dumb. Well, now it's turnabout, but it's not fair play. Apple is woefully behind on the dumbest aspects of AI. In a way, I almost kind of respect it. In a way, I almost want to say, good play, Apple. You're not just playing the stupid game of appeasing investors to have massive LLMs doing garbage work on your phone. In in a really weird roundabout way, the fact that Apple got caught with their pants down here actually makes their platform seem more legit. We're not putting garbage on the iPhone because we didn't make the garbage. But now investors really care that we play with the garbage. So now we're going to pay Google $1 billion a year to power the new Siri. So I caught this first on TechCrunch, but I think oh no, it's here. Reported first by Bloomberg. The move is a big one for Apple, which has traditionally relied on its own technology, but plans to use Google's model as a temporary solution until its own AI becomes powerful enough, including to power a slate of upcoming features for the voice assistant. So first of all, I wanted to highlight this from TechCrunch because this was already a lie. The move is a big one for Apple, which has traditionally relied on its own technology. So, I want to ask people in the chat, what technology was the backbone of search in Safari and in Siri? What Apple technology was what Apple made, relied on? Could someone please Clue me in. What have I missed? What did Apple do in search that they relied on their own technology? I feel this is my assessment. I'm asserting this, and I have no evidence. This is wild, rampant speculation. I feel Apple created some loose frameworks to plug systems into Siri. I think by design, this is my guess, and I don't have any information to back this up, but my guess is they purposely kept Siri full of holes because they thought, hey, look at this race between ChatGPT and Meta has the Llama models and Google has the Gemini models. You know, we had this big hole in search. We threatened to come up with our own search engine, and then Google paid us $20 billion a year to rake all of our users' data. If we make our own AI, it's going to be really expensive. So instead, let's kind of create some frameworks for Apple intelligence, but then we'll purposely leave these big gaps. And then someone like ChatGPT is going to come around and say, hey, we want to be the default backbone of AI. Just like Google came to us and said, we want to be the default backbone of search. And then we'll get ChatGPT to give us $20 billion a year, and that'll be the pieces. We won't have to develop or make anything. Isn't that going to be great? We'll still get all the branding of Apple Intelligence, and all of our users will think our products are so great, and we'll just hand off all of that extra load to Microsoft or Google or Amazon or Grok or Facebook, and it won't matter as long as they're paying us $20 billion a year. And then that didn't happen. ChatGPT said, like, oh, we could do like trade for trade, like for like. And Apple was like, oh, okay, I guess. We won't charge you, but you won't charge us. That's almost like having an AI solution on the iPhone. And then it just didn't get any better. So now there's like, oh, we've been promising our users that Siri would get better for, I don't know what, like 10 years now. So I guess we need to have an AI on our phone, I guess. So, if we just took the last year of Google paying us for search, um, we could pay for the next 20 years of Siri powered by Gemini. It's not even like comparable. Like how important search was to the internet versus how ludicrously useless language models are. It's a 20 to 1, it's literally a 20 to 1 ratio. That is, I think Apple is probably overpaying, but that's the dollar amount that Google is demanding to use Gemini for Siri is $1 billion a year. So it's like that scene in the movie Rounders where KGB is like ruffling some feathers and you're like, I'm paying you with your own money. I'm still up from the last time I busted you down. Google is getting paid back very slowly with their own money from search. Like Apple is playing this one out brilliantly. But also I feel like this is pretty good data to suggest that not only are we in an AI bubble and everything is massively overvalued and overpriced, but if Apple can't even, or I guess I should say, if Google can't even command a commiserate payment in filling this role, Apple is technically desperate, right? Look at all these headlines. Like, where's Apple's AI play? What's going on with Siri? Apple's falling so far behind. Investors are worried. They're shooketh. And $1 billion. Search was worth $20 billion a year to Google. AI is worth $1 billion a year to Apple. And Apple is technically desperate. AI isn't a viable business model. There is nothing there. it's gonna crater at some point, and it makes me really sad because we've got all of this infrastructure for compute power, cloud, data center. We could be doing amazing things with this hardware, and instead we're coming up with garbage word guessing reply bots that tell you you're super smart all the time, even when you do really awful things, and it's gonna ruin civilization again. So yeah, pretty funny. Yeah, yes, from Ted. Apple also had to rely on Google Maps for a bit. From Ron Guido, you just had to say Siri. Like, did I say Siri or did I say Hey Siri? Is that what I said? When I'm setting up new phones, I've been disabling all of the voice commands. I've stopped using assistant stuff because Gemini is still broken for a lot of the things that I used to use the Google Assistant for. And so I there was a time like I would say G and like a dozen phones would light up and it was pissing me off so much that I've just started turning them all off. I'm not doing any voice activation anymore at all. I we were in the era of like Cortana, we were on a path to have amazing things happen on our phones, and now it's all so dumb. So dumb. All right. Oh man, I still have a couple more. So I want to highlight this again. This is a video that I hope you'll watch because it's really not that long of a video. But this is an interesting little experiment done by HTX Studio. Is fast charging killing the battery? A 2-year test on 40 phones. And I would like you to watch through and see the results. Because on the one hand, a major part of this video is focused on fast charging the iPhone. You can technically fast charge an iPhone by plugging it into a higher wattage charger. I believe on the iPhone Pro, it tops out at 30 watts or 40 watts, and that is faster than sort of the standard iPhone chargers that people are most familiar with. Fine. We'll call that fast charging. But I've been saying in a lot of my videos lately, I believe it is my again, I don't have the data to back this up, but it's just my assertion with literally a dozen phones on my desk right now. It is my assertion that true fast charging, when we get to 65 watts and above, that is actually a bigger benefit for your overall battery health and longevity. My assertion is you plug in a phone with like a 90-watt charger and you're really charging. Well, I guess now with the silicon carbon batteries, that's a little different. For a while there, it was split battery cells. But you plug in the phone, it will get a little warm, but it gets warm for a much shorter period of time. So if you put on some of the charging limits, like on a lot of these phones, especially the ones that have like, here's one of the Vivo mini phones, and it's a 6,500 milliamp hour battery in a phone that's significantly smaller than a Pixel XL. Um, Plug it in, it's going to get warm, but then it's going to get warm for a shorter period of time. And I'm not charging up that last 10% of the battery that puts the most stress on the battery. And even without that last 10%, I still have more battery capacity than a Samsung, an iPhone, or a Google phone. So it's win-win for me. If we do those two things, I believe a battery will last longer because it won't be running hot for as long and it won't be trying to force that last 10%. That's my assertion. That's my guess. The data in this video from HTX Studio kind of helps verify my assertion. So I'm very positive on this video because it kind of makes me right. I want you to watch this video so that you can say, oh, well, Juan's been guessing, and his guess actually kind of plays into the topic of this video. But one of the things that I think is what we have to kind of keep an eye on. The HTX Studio did an incredible job of setting this up. It's an experiment that they've been trying to conduct. He says 2-year test. The main window of testing was 500 charge cycles over a very short period of time of a couple months. So it's not taking phones and running them for 2 years in the same way that this title might, excuse me, make you feel. But one of the things that I'm very anxious about is the impact of wireless charging in this space. So we can say slow charging or fast charging, but I feel one of the more damaging consumer trends is all of the people who, instead of getting a phone that has proper fast charging, they just cover all of their areas with wireless charging. There's a wireless charger in the car, and one by the bedside table, and one down in the kitchen, and one at the office. And they're always trickle charging the phone because they're concerned about the battery. They've got battery anxiety. Whereas someone with real fast charging, they're not constantly trying to trickle charge. If I pick up my brand spanking new OnePlus 15, I don't, oh no, the phone's only at like 50%. Maybe I'll top off for like a couple minutes just to make sure I've got enough battery to last the day. No, there's a 7,000 milliamp hour battery in here. So at 30%, I still know I have enough battery to last a day. Not a full day and night 24-hour cycle. And when I want to top it off, I plug it in, I let it charge up to like 80%, and then I unplug it. And that didn't take very long to go from like 30 to 80%, right? So that to me is really going to be the future showdown. Is wireless charging is way less efficient. It runs warmer. It uses more power. I know we're only talking like 5 watts here, 15 watts there, but when you talk about devices at scale and the millions and millions and millions of iPhones out there that are slow charging on wireless charging pads, that does kind of add up, right? And from a society level, that's not great. That is woefully inefficient. And we could be doing a better job of that. But it's also going to burn out your battery faster to charge that way and run it hotter and use it less efficiently. So I want you to watch this video. The conclusion they come up with, I think, is maybe a little soft for the differences that you see. Oh, well, I mean, the effect is negligible. But there's a big difference between Android and iOS. There's a big difference between Android phones and iPhones. And that to me is much more telling, especially as in Android land, we are getting phones with much bigger batteries. So anyway, excuse me. Great video. What did I have? Oh, you know what? I want to get into talking about the phone that I just held up. The last two stories that I had on the docket, we're going to skip over. From Unit 42, they have an incredible write-up on the landfall exploit that hit Samsung devices. There was some malware that could be installed through a corrupted DNG file. So people were using raw photos, the DNG container, to hide malware that affected Samsung devices. That got patched. I want to say they got patched back in April, but now someone has gone through, studied everything that happened. Read this write up. It is an incredible write up on the savvy, the incredible ingenuity that went into making malware for Samsung devices hidden in photo files. So, great article that will be linked in the show notes on this week's episode. And then I just want to bring this up. Again, I caught this first. Someone linked it on Twitter. So I guess that's what I'm going to link is a stupid Twitter post because that's where people get news now. It's the everything site, Twitter. From Anvin, Motorola might be bringing us a new Edge. The Moto Edge 70 Ultra, Snapdragon 8 Gen 5, periscope telephoto camera, slim and I like that they wrote slime and lithe wheat design. But yeah, it would be kind of cool. The look of the phone from the images, because I think they're just showing the Edge 50 Ultra. I'll be curious to see if Moto doesn't just copy everyone else and making their phone look as iPhone-y as possible. But again, it would be really nice to see a Moto Edge again, an Edge 70. I'm not bothered with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 5. If it's priced in this is what's funny. If it's priced like any other Moto, it'll have like a $1,200 price tag that then a month later it'll be like a third on sale. But I would just love to see a refresh, a more modern device. I know they're not going to do anything crazy. It's going to be whatever is in Android 16 material design. It's going to have a whole bunch of Motorola little applications, but it's not going to have its own bespoke skin. It's going to be really bare bones. But it would be nice to have an update, a slightly newer chipset, some newer capabilities, and a phone with a good desktop mode again. So we'll have to see. If the Edge 70 Ultra comes out, that might be one that I think I'll try to import, because I doubt we'll get it here in the United States. It seems like Motorola is only interested in bringing us flip phones here in the United States, which really sucks. So yeah, exactly. Midnight State just said it would be nice if they brought it to the US. Yeah, I'd love to see a refresh. I really feel Motorola is dropping the ball here, because they got a little awareness. They get, like, again, having the Razor, is such a nostalgia play that was fun. But I don't think you can sustain on just flip phones. I think we're seeing that the market is kind of tapping itself out. We're about done with the people who are interested in foldy, bendy plastic screens. I don't think there's a ton of growth there. I don't think that's going to eclipse standard slate smartphones in any way. In performance and price and features and durability and repairability, I think consumers are probably correct. It's a fun enthusiast thing, and it's a fun little like talking point, but it's not going to be the main phone form factor in any way, shape, or form as they move through. So WX Roamer, I actually love pushing back against these comments. So WX Roamer writes, Moto needs to do better with timely security updates. I love these comments. I see these comments a lot about Motorola. The thing I think no one pays attention to, and this is the fault of all of the major Android enthusiast influencers who review products. I prefer Moto's software distribution. Motorola does not put out a lot of OTAs. You go into your Android settings and you look for an update, and there's a big update and it downloads and a bunch of things get patched and fixed. That's actually not a good strategy. What Motorola does, there are a ton of little apps in the App Store that are directly plugged into system components on the phone. So when there's an update for Ready For, or whatever they're calling it now, their Screen Share Plus, blah, 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 their desktop mode. There's an update for the desktop mode. You don't need to wait for an OTA. That update is pushed through Google Play, just like any other app. For their camera, there's a whole series of camera apps on a Motorola, but none of those are consumer accessible. They're just the placeholders for components to be updated directly by Motorola as soon as a piece of software is ready to go. So what I feel Motorola really needs to work on is longevity. And I'll agree with everybody there. Longevity is a problem when you're buying a premium tier phone. You need to get, I feel like, the minimums, like at least 5 or 6 years of security patching. I don't really care about the OS updates as much as I care about bug fixes and security patches to that 5 or 6 year tier. And I think Motorola still drops the ball, not only just on their promises, but on actually living up to their commitments there. But when you have a Motorola, you are constantly seeing little app updates. And that to me is way better than waiting for a big OTA to plug a bunch of holes. Something's ready to go, update it. Don't make me wait or look for an OTA. Just send it directly through Motorola. Or I'm sorry, send it directly through Google Play. So again, I would much rather have Motorola's distribution style, but with the longevity of a OnePlus. Again, like when you really live in a Motorola and you're not just a BS influencer, just, oh, it's not as popular, so I'm not going to give it a good review. You're constantly seeing there's constant update, constant attention, constant fixes. It just, they shut off after like a year and a half. Sorry, let me take a drink of water. So, what do we want to talk about first? I'll leave it up to the chat. I've got this Vivo. So this is pretty neat. I've been spending some time with this Vivo. I've also got this Vivo, and this one's pretty neat. I've also been spending some time with this Vivo. And then I also have this OnePlus. And this is pretty neat. I've been spending some time with this OnePlus. Where do we want to start? I'll admit, I am frustrated. So Oppo, there's still this division between OnePlus and Oppo and how they handle PR, and then how they handle PR in different regions. So there's a lot about the OnePlus 15 that I feel people in this chat probably already know about, that we're still discouraged from discussing on the global editions of those phones. And that kind of curtails some of the things that I might say about this phone as we get into this conversation. But very, very soon, I will have some kind of video out where we can dig a bit more into metrics and opinions and benchmarks and things like that. But it's frustrating because, like, you kind of already know all that stuff, especially if you caught on my channel. We just recently showed where is my OnePlus 13 already is running a preview build of Oxygen OS 16, Android 16. So we already know all the new software features that are coming to Origin. I mean, to Origin, to Color OS, now Oxygen OS on the OnePlus. Very Oppo style. But now we've got the OnePlus 15 that's also kind of piggybacking on what's happening there. So we've got a let me see. OnePlus 15, Vivo X300, Vivo always. All right, let me do this. So OnePlus, Vivo, OnePlus, OP Vivo. What is the color of the OnePlus? Where can I buy a Vivo phone? All right, why don't I start with the Vivos and then we'll wrap with what we can talk about on the OnePlus. We can at least do that. The vote here is very well split. And from SGGQA, like, actually, this would be fine for a podcast too. I would like to propose something unorthodox. Let's talk about LG this time. Guys, I don't know if y'all know this, but the LG V60 was a banger phone. So, I feel to Skrizikawikazal's point, if you were a fan of what LG brought to the table, I kind of feel like the Vivos are the spiritual successors to the camera features that we found on LG. Their camera apps are really kind of messy, but they're so feature packed that you can do incredible work as you're going through here. All of the B-roll for the last 2 weeks, both video and photos, have come from the Vivo X300 Pro. Now, that being said, my initial video for the Vivo X300 Pro, I had some difficulty putting it together because I didn't want it to feel milquetoast. Like, I'm not unopinionated on it, or I'm not disappointed in it. But this to me is kind of evidence that phones in 2026 are going to be really conservative. That I don't see any companies out there really trying to, like, blow the doors off or do something radical, or they're all afraid of, like, raising prices in an economy that is really tough for a lot of people right now. So if I hold up my Vivo X200 Pro next to my X300 Pro, there's not a lot of really big tangible differences between these two devices. So my recommendations start getting paced out more and more and more. When I was reviewing the X200 Pro, I commented several times that it might not be, um, how do I want to phrase this? So from the X200 Pro, it might not be, oh, there's like schmutz on the back of this phone. It might not be exciting enough or changed enough to warrant someone flipping an X100 Pro. So I think we've really struggled. I'm sorry, to preface a little bit, one of the biggest awards I could give a phone, the highest level of praise, was the 1 year upgrade. This phone is so improved in 1 year, I would strongly consider flipping a relatively new phone to get this 1 year upgrade. I felt that way with the X90 Pro to the X100 Pro. I felt that way with the Galaxy S22 to the Galaxy S23. Get rid of this phone, flip it, it's worth the 1 year upgrade. I did not feel that way going from the X100 Pro to the X200 Pro. And I feel like those of you in this chat have probably already sort of gleaned where I'm going with this. Now that the X300 Pro is functionally so similar to the X200 Pro, it puts us in a sticky situation where if you have an X100 Pro, it still might not be enough to flip to an X300 Pro. You might be fine sitting out yet another year. There are a lot of little quality of life improvements. There are some great new at the edges, those great new camera features, the new 4K 120 frame per second modes, better support for things like focus peaking. The flash is finally in the right place above the camera sensors. There are a lot of little touches on the X300 Pro, but it is not fundamentally a different or radically improved device over the X200 Pro, which means it brings a lot of the same criticisms and comparison points to the X100 Pro. So that was a lot of talking and saying X number Pro, X number Pro. I have a video, first look video on the X300 Pro. It has already become a part of my workflow. It is one of the main cameras I'm using for making content on my channel. I am having some concerns on thermal throttling. I did some outside shoots, which you'll be able to see soon on Patreon, and they'll go public later, but they'll go first to the patrons. Um, Shooting 4K 60 in direct sun without a data connection and in airplane mode just to kind of reduce some of the heat on the radios. I ran into a situation using a gimbal that I did not anticipate and might be a problem if you like to shoot longer stretches of video. So I'll detail that later when I get to a more full, like proper review on the X300 Pro. But it's like, of course, I would try to use it in one way that I don't think is going to be very common. And I find a massive issue with thermal performance. And maybe it'll be solved in an update. Like maybe it just needs a one more update just to kind of polish up the performance on the Dimensity 9500. But of course, I tried to do something that I thought would be simple, and it got me stuck in a problem that I don't think anyone else is going to experience but me. So yeah, it's pretty great. Hold on, I've got some questions here. Oh, from Future It's Here, from Nick. The Vivo photos were butter. I really like what this camera can do. I mean, I really liked what the X200 Pro camera could do. I'm not too surprised that I'm also very much enjoying shooting on the X300 Pro. I shared some early samples. I like to take a lot of macro shots, so there are a lot of close-up shots. I have some low-light photos in there. The image processing on Vivo has always been top tier, especially for making something incredibly bright in really dark shooting scenarios. But I think one of the biggest software changes has been snapshot mode. So your action mode, people in action, pushing that into darker conditions has been surprisingly good on the X300 Pro, where I took it, my daughter went trick or treating and I took the X300 Pro, and where iPhone and Pixel users in our little circle of family were having their kids stand still, I was getting snapshot photos of kids in movement at night under like Halloween lighting, getting these great images of them like action, getting candy. There's one where my daughter and her best friend are sitting on a driveway trying to trade candy, and I'm not like telling them sit still and look at the camera and give me a smile. It's them in action, like trading Snickers and Twizzlers and stuff. And I didn't have to stop them. I just got the moment. And that's the big difference. Pixel can't do that. Samsung can't do that. iPhone can't do that. Xiaomi struggles with that. Vivo crushes when you do stuff like that. It is so good. And I know that that's computational photography. I know that's image stacking and DNGs and brightening up a whole bunch of stuff, but I can't care when it works really well. um, from Mole Jules, unfortunately, I think you're right, Mole. This kind of innovation chill is going to stick around for a couple of years, I bet. Unfortunately, Apple's leading the way. Apple, again, by design, we have the communication from Apple executives saying our phones are too good. We need to scale stuff back. We can't keep putting gooder stuff in the iPhone. Our customers will pay for less. Will pay more for less. So we need to make our phones worse so that people will still keep paying us more. And unfortunately, Google and Samsung are just going to try and copy Apple in radically slowing down the pace of innovation. So from Kevin Pitts, the problem with Vivo, Oppo, etc., are the antennas for the US. So Kevin, I feel like what you're not wrong, but I feel like you're using words not correctly. When I put my SIM card in a Vivo with a Dimensity and a MediaTek radio, I get better signal reception on a Vivo on T-Mobile's sub-6 5G than I do on a Pixel. So there's a hierarchy. In the United States, on carriers like T-Mobile, so all of the T-Mobile MVNOs, Mint, Google Fi, etc., top of the pack, Qualcomm. I don't think that's controversial. I think most people would agree with me. Second place, probably Apple. Third place, and really close, MediaTek from Global Phones. Then below that, and massively below that. So those first three, I think, are actually really close in signal reception. So going from Qualcomm to Apple to MediaTek in the United States on a T-Mobile network, those three are really close. In fact, sometimes I can see a MediaTek advantage with sub 6, but then the what does T-Mobile call UC, whatever their faster version of the internet. I don't have the band support for the faster 5G bands, but the sub 6, where I'm still getting great data speeds and good building signal penetration, MediaTek is doing great with an international or a global phone. But Samsung radios in the Tensor, way below, and like an order below. So if I put my SIM card in a Pixel 10 Pro XL with the newest Samsung radio, it's still like a 9 to 12 decibel difference than if I put my SIM card in an X300 Pro. Like, it's not close. So you will absolutely lose faster data connections faster faster data connection sooner on a Pixel than you will on a Vivo, an Oppo, or a Xiaomi. The issue is AT&T and Verizon. So if you're on AT&T, you're going to get whitelisted. Your device is going to get cut off from their network, and you're going to have to jump through hoops to try and get a third-party phone on their network. And then on Verizon, they have the illusion of competition that they've made their network so restrictive, you can't get other devices working well. You just pop a SIM card. Again, I'm on Mint Mobile right now. I just pop a Mint SIM card in this Vivo, and it is fantastic. It is very good. So again, when I'm trying to do that kind of radio testing, it's anecdotal, but I live out in the burbs where we've got like one cell tower for like the whole area up on the hill just outside the 101. You get terrible reception, right? So if I can show, man, I'm really struggling to get a good 5G signal in my home, but it's way better on this Vivo than it is on my Pixel. That I think is valuable, like reasonable conversation to have in a review. I'm not downtown where I've got Verizon, double gigabit data speeds. I'm out in the burbs. I my, we have a little puppy. He's like 15 pounds, and we actively have to watch for coyotes so he doesn't get eaten when we take him on a walk at like dusk, right? So if I can see that I'm getting way better signal reception and connectivity on a Vivo, I feel like that's useful for a lot of people who don't have the absolute best city center data connection for their phones. Um, From old Jules. Man, I'd love to hear more inside baseball about that kind of trade network. I wish I could say more about that kind of trade network. From Hikari One, what do you think about Chinese companies cutting the battery capacity for global phones? I think they are just being a bit greedy and not paying the taxes to ship higher capacity cells. And I think it goes hand in hand. So what we're talking about when we say that these devices are going to slow and innovation is going to chill, it's because of costs. So if you have a regulation in a country in Europe that prevents just shipping a larger battery, because think about how big these batteries are getting. A 7,000 milliamp hour battery is a really big capacity to put into a lifestyle durable, abused pocket computer. So I don't think you're wrong. They don't want to pay higher fees and certifications and regulations, so they're going to put a smaller battery in that device. But I think that also goes to the regulators on that side too. They have set up regulations where they don't want a repeat of something like the Galaxy Note, bursting into flames. And if you have a 7,000 milliamp hour battery go up on an airplane, that could be pretty scary. I think everyone probably saw there was like that little video that was going around on Reddit. I want to say it was a tablet, but someone please correct me if I was wrong. You're in a tube in the sky, has a very thin skin, and it's pressurized. And someone's cell phone or tablet battery goes up in flames, and they're trying just to contain it in one of the overhead luggage containers. That is a terrifying situation to be in. So the bigger the gas tank, the more potential there is for destruction and harm. So regulators in those European countries are saying we need to make sure that this is as safe as we can possibly make it with the chemicals that are in play and the capacities that are in play. And if you're going to put a bigger battery in a phone, we have increasingly strict regulations on the size of that battery. And that means to verify the safety of that product is going to be more expensive for testing and certifications. And I get where a lot of Chinese companies say we don't want to pay for all that. I mean, think about all the times that we used to have like OnePlus, I think is a perfect example of this. They used to have phones that were water resistant, but they didn't pay for the certification to list IP67 or IP68. They would do videos and say, hey, look, we're going to dunk this phone in a bucket of water for 30 minutes and it's going to come out just fine. It's built to that standard, but we just didn't want to pay for the certification. And I think that's part of what we're seeing happening here. It's easier, it's cheaper, the regulators feel it's safer, so that's what we're going to do. I feel a lot of consumers are going to be bummed out by that. But when they are, we're still getting phones that have decently big batteries. It's just a bummer that not everybody gets to play with the same new tech. From Bradley Larcher, will the X100 Pro get ColorOS 16? As far as I knew, I thought it was going back to the X90, but I might have that wrong. I'm pretty sure the X100 Pro will be getting an update still too. I'll have to, I'll ask the folks over at Vivo and see what they say about that. Before we jump, because there are a lot of comments here, and I do want us to spend a little time talking about the OnePlus 15. What I can say about the OnePlus 15. I did just want to highlight real quick. I haven't spent as much time with it because I really like digging into the cameras on the Pro. But I have to say, I'm really charmed with what Vivo is doing on the X300 non-Pro. So mine is the sort of lavender color. I forget what the actual name of this color is, but it's a really pretty purpley lavender. But the back glass has this frosted feel to it that is really fun. I'm immediately putting it in a case, and I'm really happy that Vivo has done this thing where the cases match the color of the device. So it's not just a clear bumper that will turn yellow after a couple of months or a black bumper that hides what makes the device look cool. This is a really pretty phone that has a really pretty color that the case matches the really pretty color. The X200 non-Pro was a surprisingly big phone. It was almost the size of the Pro, but just had like a couple little like camera downgrades. Not, I don't think they're cooled as well. I think more of the more exciting cooling tech goes into the Pro phones. But I pick up the X300, and it is almost exactly the size. So I'm taking the case off so they can match. Excuse me, of the Mini, the Vivo Minis, and the Vivo FE. So here's my Vivo X200 FE, and here's my Vivo X300. And I think we're like, if I'm trying to line them up, there's like a tiny hair fraction of a millimeter where the X300 is just like a tiny piece of a bezel taller than the FE. Or do I have that? I'm even trying to balance them. Again, I would need calipers to describe any potential differences. But I really am encouraged that the X300 has some great battery improvements, capacity improvements. The sensors, the camera sensors, are a little nicer on the X300 than they were on the X200. And for folks who want, I think, a better balance of a smaller form factor phone, still getting incredible battery life, still huge battery. I've completely spaced. My brain is Swiss cheese. Someone will probably be able to beat me. 300 GSM Arena. What was the battery capacity on the X300? And my browser is going so slow. This is terrible podcasting. I do apologize. Um, oh, it's great. I looked up V300, not X300. I'm real good at this, guys. This is super, super great. Vivo X300. Open the website. Come on, you can do it. As the show grounds to a halt. I love this. This is great. I'm loving it. Okay, here we go. So 90-watt charging and a 6,000 milliamp hour battery. So where is this? Is my Pixel 10 Pro XL, and this is my Vivo X300, and you can see how the XL is huge compared to the Vivo, and the Vivo has like, what is that? Not quite a 20% larger battery with more than twice the battery charging speed, and it can charge wirelessly about as fast as the XL can charge plugged in. So even if you wanted to cook your battery with wireless charging, which I would recommend against when you've got real fast charging over a cable, you could, and it would still charge faster than the Pixel 10 Pro XL. So all of this just coming into such a small phone, how embarrassing this is for like a Galaxy S26. I'm really curious to see, like, will we finally get some camera improvements on the Galaxy S26? Because what we've got here, the main camera sensor is going to be better than the S25. The telephoto, yeah, the telephoto's bigger, so it's a half-inch telephoto sensor. Like, this is way less compromised. It's almost the Mini. So there was a Vivo X200 Pro Mini. This is pretty close to the Mini as the non-Pro phone, and I think it will have 120 frame per second 4K video on the main sensor, but it won't have it on the telephoto like the X300 Pro does. I If we could get a phone like this, small form factor, brutally powerful, huge battery life, super fast charging, and the camera sensors are not a radical downgrade. They aren't as good as the sensors on the Pro, but they're way better than the sensors on a Galaxy S25 Plus. Or they're pretty competitive against a Pixel Pro. Just what are we doing here in the United States? We're really not bringing our best. So, let me do this here. So from Jimmy Fire Dragon, I think talking about the battery, I think OnePlus did something similar with the OnePlus 13 or the OnePlus 12. I think for the OnePlus 15 though, I saw a headline saying there weren't going to be different battery capacities. Someone please look that up for me in the chat if you caught an article or if you heard something like that too. I'm trying to do this from memory just because my browser is going so stupid slow right now, but I don't believe that we're going to see different regional variations on the OnePlus 15, but I might have that wrong. So, get this out of the way. From Mr. Maug, aren't silicon carbon batteries safer? So, I am not a battery specialist. I have a very cursory understanding of battery technologies and the different chemicals that go into them. And to your point, I believe that yes, they are, but at some point you still get to catastrophic failure with an energy density. And once you get to a catastrophic failure with a high energy density, it is still a very dangerous situation in the areas where you might be confined. So at some point, you do run into a problem, and we have to expect that there's a non-zero number of devices that could be built with manufacturing defects. That there could be a problem in sourcing the battery cells, that there could be an issue in the assembly and the packaging of the product. I don't believe that this will be unique to one manufacturer. It's just, you know, that there will be some failure rate with every single manufacturer on the planet. And if you have a 7,000 milliamp hour capacity, that is a large energy density to put in your pocket, where it's going to be bounced around and thrown around and banged up and used. I understand why there is some concern from regulators. I, when you're on an airplane, you have to keep batteries in your carry-on, like power banks, and there is a certain capacity that you can't pass. And we're starting to get to an energy density in a phone that's about half the energy capacity that you're supposed to be able to travel with. I understand why, like I when I flew out of Shenzhen, I had to throw away a power bank because I was over the limit of capacity. I'd had a bunch of little power banks, and I was trying to get on a flight leaving Shenzhen, and they looked at all these batteries that I had because I had a big power bank, then I had two smaller ones, and then I had like a stick charger. Like, you remember like when Nokia was making those like little tube. It was like a little tube, like half a phone charge kind of a thing. And it was like, oh, there's too much, and I had to get rid of one of my medium-sized batteries because that was the easiest way to get under the limit of getting on the airplane. So, oh yeah, Barry Johnson, and it looks like who found it from Yako. The global. Nope, come on. Click on the right comment. Global OnePlus 15 will be identical to the Chinese model, including the huge battery from GSM Arena. Thank you for the confirmation there. So, um, OnePlus 15. Also, had it for a couple weeks. I'm going to have a lot more information coming out soon. I am doing a benchmarking comparison. This is my first phone with the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. And I've been seeing some interesting numbers back and forth between the 8 Elite Gen 5 and the Dimensity 9500. So there will definitely be some chatter there. I put my benchmarking articles up on Patreon. But they will be referenced in the videos for each of those phones. We've got the little action button, and right now I've programmed mine to turn on the flash as a flashlight. So thankfully, this isn't tied to an AI button or something stupid that we'll never use. There is some flexibility in how you can switch that over. But I was kind of curious. I'm not totally won over on this design. If I hold up my OnePlus 13, you can see my case is super worn. Like all of the red trim around my camera circle is getting rubbed off. I just cleaned off all the stickers. My daughter likes to cover my phone cases in stickers. I just scraped all of those off. But this has been a really used device. I haven't been swapping my personal SIM very much at all. I put it in the Pixel 9 Pro XL for a little while, and then I put it in the Pixel 10 Pro XL for a little while. And then it kind of went right back into my OnePlus 13. And my side SIMs now almost live exclusively in Vivo and Xiaomi. OnePlus 15. I'm not the guy to say, oh, I don't like the look of the phone, so I won't use a powerful device. But I'm kind of curious what people think about going to a square. I really liked the OnePlus Circle. I kind of feel like this square, it's a little different, sure, but it still kind of feels iPhone-y to me. So with so much of the rest of the phone being flat curves, flat sides, I love that the material, the color I got is that really pretty tan. It almost looks like a piece of pottery. It it's a sandy kind of color that makes it look a little different. And I dig that. I really do like it. I wish the case was the same color like Vivo does. The case is the same color. So I have a very similar color on the Vivo. It's kind of a khaki color, and the case has that same kind of camel khaki look to it. And I wish OnePlus had sent a case that like that for the OnePlus 15. But I'm just kind of a little burnt out on something that looks in sort of general frame and taper and curves and corners. And they can say like, oh, well, what we've done is maximized these diagonal lines on the back of the camera sensors to accentuate that it's a square on the back of a flat phone with rounded corners. I feel that's iPhone. I feel that looks like an iPhone. If I hold this phone up, I think a lot of people are just going to assume I have a skin on an iPhone, right? So I don't know. I don't know if I'm maybe being a bit too precious or a bit too persnickety there. But if I hold up a Vivo, people know it's not an iPhone. People know it's not a Samsung. If I hold up my Xiaomi, like there's no getting around. This is not a phone people know of here in the United States. And then I show people the photos from Xiaomi and Vivo, and they're, oh, you must have really good cameras on there. All right. Oh, Team Fry just jumped in. What's up? Hold on. Where's Fry? The chat like just bounced on me super quick. Team Fry, I don't know what came over me. I suddenly missed the Pixel and now stuck my sim back in the Pixel 9a, mostly because it's cheaper than the Pixel 10. I wonder how the 8 Elite Gen 5 will be reviewed across different brands. So I can expand a little bit on the Dimensity situation, but I feel we are reaching a performance threshold that is very difficult to manage. So I did an outdoor shoot with the Vivo X300 Pro. I had the phone on a gimbal, but it was in sunlight. And it was really hard to keep that phone shooting 4K 60. Well, my first video clip topped out at 7 minutes, and then the phone shut it off. And I actually haven't had that for a bit because it's not summer. I want to say it was like 75, maybe 78 degrees Fahrenheit outside. It was warm, but not hot. And I feel with older generations of chips, also shooting 4K 60, I've been in similar situations where I feel like I've gotten longer recording time. Now, this is a brand new phone, the Vivo X300 Pro. It definitely needs some more updates and some polish. It had a massive update when I got it out of the box, and I feel it still needs just another new performance, just kind of clean everything up kind of update. But that did give me a little concern. And so we've got these laptop grade chips. Like if I started showing you benchmarking results, these things are all pacing like Core Ultra 5s that go into laptops. We've got GPUs on board that horrifically embarrass like 13th gen Intel integrated graphics. You know, chips that can play games like Spider-Man at like 30 frames per second. Um, that's in your phone and it's passively cooled. So I think we are getting to a performance level where it's getting a little easier to saturate the device, heat soak the device, and run into thermal throttling or where features are just literally shut off. And that makes me kind of anxious. Like I don't want to have to manage or babysit. And I realize like part of it is like we are getting higher quality video, we're shooting at higher bit rates, there's more image compression and HDR effects, and you can shoot in Dolby Vision on your phone. And I get all that, and I totally appreciate that it's not an oranges to oranges comparison, but I feel like, you know, I could pick up an LG Wing, shoot 4K 60 for minutes and minutes and minutes at a clip, and the phone would be screaming hot, but it wasn't dropping frames and it wasn't shutting off the video. And that was on a Snapdragon 765. So I know the quality of the video is not as good as the quality of the video that I'm capturing on this Vivo, but maybe that's a little less important when I'm also trimming this up and sort of dumping it on YouTube where it's going to be viewed in a compressed state anyway. So Team Vry, I feel these new devices coming out, if it's a Snapdragon 8 Elite or a Dimensity 9000 series, it is going to be ruthlessly important that that phone have tremendous cooling capabilities. If we put these highest performing chips in just sort of adequate shells, they're going to throttle really aggressively. This is the big problem that I had with flip phones. So like the last Moto Razor that I got to use, or I also still have it here on my desk, the Xiaomi Mix Flip. You have so much less surface area to get heat out of one of the panels. So you can't put in more effective cooling hardware because we've sacrificed part of the frame so that there's a hinge that splits the phone in half, right? I'm not, I'm spelling out the basics for a reason here. There is no benefit to using a Snapdragon 8 series chip in a phone that isn't built around proper cooling. I'm so sick
of the nerds in my YouTube comments who will trot out things like, it doesn't even have a gooder chip. It's like a Snapdragon 8S. That's not even a premium chip. It's not even a flagship chip. That's a mid-ranger chip. It is not. I think Qualcomm has done some stupid stuff with their chip names, but I will give them one one consideration that if they put an 8 on that number, that is a thirsty, high performance chip that can run kind of hot. It is laptop grade. I know that there are some differences, and you can say, well, the 8S is just like this Snapdragon 7 chip. It's not. You have to be really bad at silicon and chip design to look at one 7 series chip that's a little beefier and very similar to like an 8S, and then ignore that all the rest of the 7 series chips are very different configuration and lower performance. There's one 7 series chip that's really an 8 series chip in disguise. It's not. 8S chips are really mid-ranger chips, and Qualcomm's trying to be greedy. I mean, Qualcomm is trying to be greedy, but you understand what I'm saying in this particular situation here. Anytime you see stuff like that, you can pretty much count on that person, that influencer, that tech enthusiast just doesn't understand how chips work. So anyway, I think we've got to be really precious with, hey, we're going to pick up this Poco and it's got an 8 Elite. Might not run well. If it's not built around getting heat out of the frame of that phone, then your performance very quickly falls into a last gen 8 series chip, maybe even down to like a 7 a 7 gen chip. That's, I mean, I think the most extreme version of that is a folding phone, a flip phone. There was no point in that Motorola having an 8 series chip. It would have performed better, cooler, more consistently, and gotten better battery life if it had had a 7 gen. But Motorola put in an 8 gen so that they could say it's a more premium and expensive device. It doesn't improve the user experience. That phone was laggy and stuttery while you were setting it up. It did not feel nice to use, and then it ran crazy hot in your pocket. So I'm very anxious about last year's chips and this year's chips not being handled appropriately. We've got all big cores, we've got laptop grade performance. Like the Dimensity 9400 in the X200 Pro is very similar in design and configuration to the chip that's now going into Chromebook Plus laptops. So, like that Chromebook Plus that I reviewed, that Lenovo, the chip in that laptop is pretty similar to what's in a phone. And that laptop is a screamer. That is a high performance Chromebook. So I don't know. I just wish there were more consistent performance discussions. Like we've got a couple people who will trot out some performance per watt and show you some games like Genshin Impact. Um, but I really wish we had a few more folks that were doing like hardware unboxed kinds of performance testing on mobile devices. We could get a better sense of like generationally what are the expectations and how should the phone be built around this product. And if we don't see these components, you might want to skip this phone. It might not perform at a tier worthy of the price premium you're going to pay to have this crazy processor in your phone. Kevin Pitt says, I'm a square. I don't know. A lot of people just never really liked the OnePlus Circle. I think Circle looks so much better. It's a camera, and cameras are circles, and lenses are circles, and I think they should be circles. Nokia got that right. The Lumia devices were circles. I feel like Oppo OnePlus had it right. Cameras are circles. I think Huawei they like to do weird oblong shapes, so at least it's not iPhone. I don't know. I'm looking at the Xiaomi. I want circles because now I know I can also just fit a lens filter on all of my camera sensors because it's a circle. I just feel like circles are better. Yeah, Bradley Larcher. I feel the OnePlus 15 camera housing reminds me of the Pixel Fold, and I just don't think that's a great camera system to emulate. I mean, I get it. A lot of people are going to say, "Hey, I take fine pictures with my Pixel Fold," but they're so expensive, and Google has this reputation that I don't feel is currently being earned. That the Pixels have great cameras. They're fine. They're good. But I feel like Google's getting lapped, and that's not the look that I want on the back of a phone. I don't think it looks cool. I don't think the camera housing makes it look like this is something that takes amazing photos and videos. It just looks like this like Borg implant that was just sort of stuck to the back of the phone, free of any other design language on the phone. It's just this lump. I feel it makes it stand out, but in a bad way. Like not in a this is the purpose of this product and the purpose of this design. Where I kind of feel like because I kind of feel like Google fell into this trap too with the Pixel 9 and Pixel 10. I feel like the Pixel 7 and 8 looked more like these things incorporated into a sleek futuristic visor optics, right? They looked like something a little Star Trekier, and the frame kind of flowed into the optics as opposed to the Pixel 9 and Pixel 10 where it's just like, yeah, we stuck on some cameras. Just kind of bolted them on there. And I just don't think it looks as clean. But again, I'm not the guy to talk aesthetic. From Kevin Pitts, whatever happened to the Exynos and AMD tag team? So as far as I knew, they did the one-off. I think there is still some internal chatter that Samsung and AMD might be partnering again. Again, a part of the issue is Samsung's foundry. They're really struggling to pick up other customers. They're trying to impress people with their gate all around. Their silicon, there's some interesting things happening at Samsung's foundry, but they also have a huge uphill battle getting wafers pressed. No, it's not pressed, but you know what I mean. Getting wafers out and comparing what the yield is going to be against Qualcomm and their next gen fab, and even Intel kind of being in the mix. Some interesting things happening with Intel's 18A at the same time. I would not be surprised if or I should say when AMD tries to make an ARM play, that they collaborate with Samsung because they've worked in the past, and then there could be some kind of cross pollinating on chiplet design, SoC components. Making an APU seems like it would be kind of similar to making an SoC. We're using different letters to sort of describe a package of components on one chip. And I think that would actually be some good synergy for them. They could walk away from TSMC and say, hey, we've got this partner. We're looking at this other new kind of chip design, or we want to be in ARM, or maybe even RISC. Maybe by that point, AMD might try to make a RISC play, something unique that's separate from their x86 business. And I think Samsung would probably be the partner they would look up. But I don't think there's anything in the pipeline right now unless I've missed news on why something like that might be going down. I feel like they kind of severed their phone partnership after that first Exynos experiment kind of whiffed because it wasn't great. Yeah, from Yako. So who has one? I think TK has the Red Magic. We should definitely check out TK's coverage on that too. But active cooling on a really hot chip, probably a good idea. I just wish those kinds of chips also had proper desktop mode. So like Red Magic has an alt view that I think is kind of handy. But man, I would love to see Ready For on an 8 Elite or a Dimensity 9500 with an active cooling fan and the ability to plug into a monitor and just give me a proper full-fledged desktop would be huge. And then also have like bypass charging. So I'm not running the battery hot, and I'm running a fan to cool the phone, and I'm using a full desktop style interface. And there would be a lot less reason to pack a tablet or a laptop because that phone would be a monster, just an incredible, incredible tool for productivity. All right, some other comments here. Oh yeah, from Michael C2. I liked the OnePlus 12R design, which had the sort of circle thing that molded into the design. The Genshin Impact edition of the 12R is especially good looking. It had all these beautiful details, and they reflected really cool in the light. It was beautiful. Looked like nothing in the competition in the West. I made a quip, but I was talking about the Nothing phone, and I want to say like the last time I really felt I vibed with aesthetic and design, and it mattered to me, and I could show it off, and people were really interested in what that phone was. For me personally, was the Honor 8. Was that laser etched reflective back glass panel on the Honor 8, and I really can't think of another phone since then that has garnered that kind of curiosity. So when I hold up these other phones, there's a practicality to it. If I hold up my Xiaomi, people are wondering what the F that camera is. But they don't really care about the look of the phone. It doesn't speak to anyone in any kind of aesthetic or design kind of way. And I kind of feel like people are just going to glaze over squares and individual camera sensors. So if it's a Samsung, if it's a Pixel, or if it's an iPhone, that square camera assembly is going to be ignored. But I can hold up the Vivo and people are going to go, hey, what's that camera? Oh, Team Vry. I personally loved the visor on the 6 and 6A. Those were pretty phones too. Pixel 9 was all right. The 9A went in an entirely different direction. That said, the camera bumps on the OnePlus 13R and Poco F7 Pro have a special place in my heart. I don't know. Do I have my. I don't know why I would ever take it off my desk. I usually have. Where is my OnePlus 13R? I thought it was right here. Dang it. Nope. I must have put it over behind me. That sucks. I usually have it within reach just to hold it up and say, like, yeah, here it is. I was going to say. I prefer centered circles. So I like the circles on Vivo better because they're centered. There's less waka waka on a table. But in the case, there's at least some buffering for the offset circle on the OnePlus. I don't like offset circle as much, though. I do like centered circle. I don't know that that makes any appreciable difference. From Yako, we could already be doing it. This is a great comment. Yako says, once the heating issues are solved, new tech maybe or 1 nanometer SoC, phones will replace entry to mid-range laptops. So we've already done that in compute power. I mean, even when we say, hey, this Dimensity runs warm and you have to worry, it might throttle like 30%. Throttling 30% is still more powerful than a couple older generations of x86 laptop chips if we're looking at like what a benchmark score can pull out of a product or the few times we can try to match software for software. I mean, you can play Crisis Remastered on a phone, reasonably decent graphics, and at a solid frame rate. It's not going to be 100 frames per second, but at a solid frame rate at like 5 watts. So we've already eclipsed what consumer compute needs are with these chips. I mentioned before that Dimensity is very similar to what's in the Compagno chip. I forgot Compagno was the name of their laptop chip. So MediaTek has Dimensity in phones, Compagno in laptops, and the core configuration, GPU, they're very similar. They're not exactly the same, but they're very similar. And that Lenovo, that laptop doesn't have any active cooling. It's got more surface area to get heat out of the bottom panel of the laptop, but you suffer almost no performance issues in that with that kind of chip in a larger surface area. So as long as you go in with like the kind of workload and computational expectations that are appropriate for the device and the size and what's going on, you could also do something like, say, um, something like this. Like, so we've got this phone, and the phone can be a laptop or it can be a desktop. You can just put it in this cradle, and a monitor is going to fire up, and you've got a keyboard and mouse, and you can use your phone as a computer. Well, just in the in the cradle that you plug your phone into, just put a little thermo cooler on it, little thermoelectric cooler. Just, it's magnetic. It snaps on to the back of a phone. It gets really, really super cold. Helps balance and regulate temperature from the battery capacity and the uh, 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 what is that called? There's the little vapor chamber in the phone, which runs sort of larger on the back. And so, as long as you can get heat out of that chamber, then the phone can run at a much higher performance for a longer period of time. These things are stupid cheap, and it would be not an expensive component to add to a desktop dock or a laptop. I travel with this, and you could plug this into another laptop type of shell. This would be really easy to accomplish. Gamers know about these things, but like, this is crazy accessible. This is really easy to add to your sort of tech lineup and get a more consistent tier of performance with active cooling on the back of your device. Um, Team Fry cries in Lumia 1020. Oreos were the best. All right. So, boy howdy, I've got lots of stuff coming out soon. We're taking the wraps off the OnePlus 15. Excuse me, there will be more to say about the OnePlus 15. I'm going to be doing some comparisons like OnePlus 15 and some of the Vivos and stuff. Vivo X300, the non-pro, I've got a video coming out on that soon. I've got a bunch of accessory videos coming out, some storage, some audio, new pair of headphones. I'm really excited to talk about these headphones. And then I got this monster uh, phone gimbal. I am not the biggest fan of phone gimbals, but if my camera would focus, this is a newer gimbal from Hohum. I don't know how to pronounce the name, and I've asked their PR, so I'm hoping they'll follow up with me. But this is an AI powered gimbal, and it's got this little camera module at the top that is detachable, so you can flip it and change it up. But with some simple hand gestures or a pop out control unit, you can set this up and get it to track your face and movement, or do panning and tracking shots if you want to do time lapse stuff like that. The M7, the Hohem M7, is one of the beefiest mobile gimbals that I've ever used. So I've been playing around a bit with this, trying to come up with some fun videos to shoot. Oh, and I also think this is cute too, because it's a little bit bigger and chunkier than just like some of the other gimbals. It of course has that really fun telescoping arm. So I'm going to be trying to do some like ground level shots, shooting 4K 120 stabilized as I like run through the tall grass and stuff. I've got the self-transforming Optimus Prime. I'm trying to do like wraparound shots in 4K 120 as he like transforms and like holds up his blaster and stuff. Really fun little piece of tech here, and a pretty brutal stabilizing platform for our phone video. So I'm gonna have a lot more to say about that too. Sorry, there's just so much on my desk right now. I'm super I'm like walled in. What you can't see is on this side of my office, there's this narrow little pathway that I can get out because there's all this stuff all around me. So, um, let's wrap this up. um, sorry, I'm looking at uh, some of these other comments. JGJ saying, "Hey, careful of the selfie stick regulations," and you're like, "You're not wrong." I mean, again, it's got a telescoping arm. One of the things that I think is useful for that, though, isn't necessarily how you move it around, but like I set it up on a tripod and I can make a vertical height adjustment really easily because it telescopes internally, and I don't have to make the tripod less stable blah, 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 blah. Oh, and from Yako, this is great. I've been using the OnePlus 7 with a dock, joysticks and all, plugged into a monitor. Fun days with emulation. Can't wait to test what these new chips will bring. I think you are definitely due for a fun upgrade. If you're rocking all the way back on a OnePlus 7, the jump to a OnePlus 15 is going to be pretty profound in terms of performance. So, folks, I hope everybody out there. Well, first of all, thank you so much for jumping back in, for tuning back in. I know we interrupted. We had a week off there, but I really appreciate folks jumping in. All the folks who sent some well wishes and were hoping I was feeling better. I wanted to make sure we were getting back on track, having these conversations every Monday. And I hope everyone out there is doing well too. It's crazy times. There's lots happening all around us. A lot of people are struggling. Even if you're doing well, you kind of feel like you're still struggling from where you were. And we just got to keep looking out for each other. If it's tech and politics, if it's just having fun with gadgets, if it's trying to find healthy ways to vent or to air frustrations, we got to keep looking out. This stuff should be benefiting us, and it shouldn't be weighing us down or making things more difficult. So, I want everybody to have a phenomenal week. I will definitely be present throughout the week, so expect to see a lot of content coming out. Be safe, take care of yourselves so you can keep taking care of others and be that awesome tech neighbor I know you can be. And I'll catch you back here next week for another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. Be safe, take care. I love you all, and I'll catch you back.